Hello and welcome to this first lecture on quality assurance in this course, Master in Business Analysis. So in this section, we will give you an in-depth view of how to do the quality assurance as a business analyst. And in this particular lecture, we will give you a quick overview of the process that you can use to participate in testing and validation activities, basically to ensure that your final product meets the required specifications and meets the business objectives as well. And one part that we'll cover as a part of that, the first step will be how to develop a comprehensive test plan. So that's what we will do in this lecture. So question for you is how to participate in this testing and validation activities to ensure that your final product meets the required specification and fulfills the business objectives. So obviously, this is a crucial step as a business analyst, basically to ensure that your product meets the specifications and meets the business objective. Because if you do not have quality assurance, you may have the best designs and plans and requirements, but your product won't deliver what it is supposed to deliver. So let's look at a detailed approach of how to effectively participate in these activities. So you need to take many steps, and what are the steps that you need to take? That let's take a look at it here quickly, and then go into one by one in the remaining lectures. So first thing you need to do is to develop a comprehensive test plan. How are you going to test all the things that you're going to develop? Then you need to define the test cases and test scripts, set up a testing environment, execute the testing, track and manage defects coming out as a result of your testing. And the very important part is to facilitate user acceptance testing. And then finally review and analyze test results, ensure requirements traceability using the metrics that we talked about, coordinate with development plan, and finally conduct a final validation and sign off thing. So let's look at the first step of developing a test plan. So how would you go about developing a test plan? So to develop a comprehensive test plan, you need to define the scope of testing first, and that includes which features and functionalities need to be tested. So there may be certain features and functionality that you are plugging and playing, and they don't need to be tested on its own, while they may need to be done as user acceptance testing or integration testing. Then you need to figure out the type of testing requirement. And there are many types of testing like unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and user acceptance testing. So what are the types of testing you need to do? And finally, set up a timeline for testing activities and assign responsibilities to team members. And once you do that, you have a detailed test plan document, how you're going to test it. And that becomes your benchmark for doing the testing as you go forward in doing the quality assurance. So question you might have for me is how to define the scope of testing. Let's take a look at how do you define the scope of testing. So it starts by understanding the project requirements, where you gather requirements, review project documentation such as business requirements, functional specifications, and user stories. And you discuss with stakeholders to understand their expectations and critical areas of application. The second thing that you do is you identify the key features and functionalities, make a list of the core features and functionality that are essential for application to meet its objectives. And then you prioritize these features based on their importance and risk. The third step would be to determine the type of testing. You decide on type of testing needed, such as unit testing, integration, system and performance testing, security testing, user acceptance testing. And each type of testing should be linked to identified features and functionality. That is what you need to ensure. And the fourth step would be to define what is in scope and out of scope activity by clearly saying what is in scope for testing, including all critical functionalities and interactions, and also identify what is out of scope of testing, such as features not yet developed or third-party integration. So you develop what is called a scope boundaries document that defines your testing scope. Then you establish testing objectives and success criteria by clearly defining objectives for each type of testing. Establish success criteria for testing activities such as performance benchmark, security standards, and acceptable error rates. Then you create a risk assessment by identifying potential risks that could impact the testing processes, such as complex feature, tight deadlines, or resource constraints. You prioritize testing activities based on the risk assessment to focus on high risk areas first so that you can clear those. And then you develop a test plan, by a detailed test plan that includes the scope of testing, type of testing, objectives, success criteria, risk assessment, testing schedules, and responsibility. So it's a documentation of your plan. And you include entry and exit criteria for each phase of testing. And as once you complete this whole thing, you have a comprehensive test plan document. So by following these steps, you can define a clear and comprehensive scope of testing that ensures that all critical features and functionalities will be thoroughly tested, minimizing the risk and ensuring that the final product will meet the business objectives as originally envisaged. So having looked at how to define the scope and of testing, what do we do next? We will look at how to determine the type of testings required in the various type of tests that you see here. That's what we will do in the next lecture. So thank you so much for watching this first lecture on quality assurance. I hope you're continuing to learn new things, continuing to enjoy. And I do look forward to see you again in the next lecture. Please feel free to message me if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer a question. And also download the PDF file to take a look at anything that is of specific interest to you.